The Rams have a huge decision to make regarding the Puka Nacua contract extension after some recent NFL news, as well as Matthew Stafford poised for a statistical breakout this season back to his prime. All that and more on this episode of Rams Digest, and welcome back to another episode of Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Finehirsh, and before we get into today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button as we are on the road to 4,000 subscribers. By training camp July 24th, we have 9 more days to hit our goal, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Click the bell down below, turn it to all, so you do not miss when we upload daily new Rams Digest videos covering all things Rams. And like this video for being less than 10 days away from training camp, as we're getting so close to the start of training camp, and we're going to have all things training camp coming up for you here on this channel. This is your home for in-depth news about Rams training camp for right now. And now getting on to today's main story, we have with a new NFL wide receiver in Garrett Wilson getting a nice big contract. What does this mean for the Puka Nacua extensions that will be held this offseason, those talks that will be held this offseason? This is a story from Rams Wire, and we're going to get into that right now. The New York Jets erased any and all doubts about Garrett Wilson's future with the team on Monday when they agreed to a massive extension with the star wide receiver. Wilson signed a 4-year, $130 million deal to remain with the Jets, averaging $32.5 million per year. He didn't take off the top wide receiver market, but he now ranks 5th at his position in annual salary. Additionally, he's the first wide receiver ever to earn at least $31 million per year after just 3 NFL seasons. And that is something to note because Puka Nacua is going to want something similar around there, and his extension talks are going to be after this upcoming season, his 3rd season when he's eligible, and we'll see just exactly how the Rams go about these extension talks. It's going to definitely be interesting to see how much money he'll get. He is coming off of a little bit of an injury-prone year. Again, he was healthy his rookie year, so if he has a healthy year this year, I don't think the injuries are going to be too much of a concern going into these contract talks. Wilson's contract should have an impact on Puka Nacua and the Los Angeles Rams when they eventually open negotiations, which could happen as soon as next offseason. I believe they will happen next offseason because Puka is that level of player, because Devontae, while I do think he is going to be good this year, we'll see how far or how much left he can be as an elite number 2 wide receiver in this league, because Puka really has top 5 wide receiver potential for the next 9, 10, 11 years here with him at his age. So we will see just exactly how these go down with the Rams. Nacua still has 2 years left on his rookie deal, but many star players end up signing extensions after year 3 when they're first eligible. As a former 5th-round pick whose annual salary is only $1 million, Nacua might want to get something done sooner rather than later. Yes, definitely. Again, only $1 million is subjective, just because we are talking NFL terms for this only $1 million. We're not talking real life terms here, but for the NFL terms, that is quite low, especially for a player of Puka Nacua's caliber, who in my opinion is a top 5 wide receiver in football. And we're going to get into just where the rest of these receiver contracts rank that are being handed out, and the ones that are going to be ranked this season. That is super low on the list, I'm sure, and we'll get into that a little bit later, so stay tuned. But Puka Nacua definitely should be making more than $1 million in this upcoming season. And comment down below what you would do if you were the Rams right now. Before I give you some numbers, comment it down below, and I want to see what you have. Given Nacua's record-setting production in his first 2 seasons, he's sure to land somewhere near the top of the wide receiver market when he does sign a new contract, assuming it's with the Rams. Ja'Marr Chase is miles ahead of every other receiver at $40.25 million per year, making $5.25 million more than anyone else. But Justin Jefferson could even be a target for Nacua at $35 million per year. Yeah, again, we'll see just exactly kind of what that means for Nacua. The Ja'Marr Chase number, I don't think is going to go that high, because I do think Ja'Marr Chase is honestly leaps and bounds ahead of Nacua, and it's not because Nacua is so far behind. It's Ja'Marr Chase is that far ahead, in my opinion, of every other receiver outside of Justin Jefferson at this current point. The 2 LSU boys making the money, and well deserved. I mean, they're definitely the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL, and I think there is a gap between those 2 and the rest of the NFL receiving core for any team and the receivers in the league. So for them, we've seen what this does for the team. For the Vikings, it hasn't been that bad. They are going with a younger route at quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, so we'll see how he looks and how Justin Jefferson looks with him. But for the Bengals, they definitely have had trouble building a defense. That's been the case ever since their Super Bowl run when they lost to the Rams, but ever since that run, they let a lot of defensive players go. And while yes, Ja'Marr Chase is that good, and I think he was deserving of that money, we'll get into these rankings later, and you'll see T. Higgins is a lot higher than a number 2 receiver kind of should be. on those rankings. And I love me some T. Higgins, but I don't know about that contract. We'll get into that. So the Rams better not make that mistake of paying too much for a guy like Nacua, where you can't build out the rest of your roster in the post-Matthew Stafford era. If Nacua is able to stay healthy and put up another 1,000-yard season, he'll surely eclipse Wilson's $32.5 million salary. You could even overtake CeeDee Lamb at $34 million annually. Lamb signed his extension before his 4th NFL season, as did Jefferson. Wilson was a year early, which could be why he fell below each of their salaries. If Nacua waits an extra year to sign his contract, he could stand to make some more than he would if he signs after this coming season, but then he also risks potential injury or a drop in production. I don't really think he risks a drop in production here. The injury thing is definitely true, because in the NFL, you never know when you're going to get hurt. One hit can cause so much damage, sadly, but well, let's knock on some wood. My desk is wood, so everyone knock on wood that does not happen. But yeah, I mean, the injury risk is definitely there when you're playing any sport, especially when it comes to contracts. I'll always remember when Devin Booker of the NBA, not when he just signed his $72.5 million per year deal, but when he signed his first extension. I remember like the day after he announced he was getting hand surgery, and I was like, oh, that's a money move. You got the money. Now, he probably already needed the surgery, but you know what I mean, that he got the surgery after the contract, so you definitely want to be healthy going into that contract. Obviously, it didn't derail Booker one bit, his hand problem, but for this, definitely important in the NFL to make sure you are healthy when you get that contract extension. And I do believe he will be, because he hasn't had an injury history coming into the league at all, so definitely not something that I am too worried about heading into next season. Regardless of when the Rams and Nacua start talking, Wilson's new deal sets the baseline for his next contract. There's very little chance he's going to make less than $32.5 million per year now. He's every bit the player that Wilson is, not to mention, he's also younger than DK Metcalf, who's 28, and just signed for $32.99 million per year in Pittsburgh. We're going to call that $33 million, DK. We'll raise the price up there a little bit, but yeah, definitely younger than DK. DK's not old. 28's not old by any means, but again, the Steelers kind of did have to give him that money just because they traded for him. So that does add the pressure for them to give him that money. But for the Rams, this is a homegrown player. He seems like he likes being in LA. He likes being on the Rams. Maybe he'll take a slight hometown discount. I don't think he should take too much of a discount because he's great and you should get all the money you can. But I don't know if he's going to be asking that Jamar Chase level money for this upcoming season. With every wide receiver that signs a new deal between now and next offseason, Nacua's price will go up. Terry McLaurin could be next with Drake London in line for a new deal too. If they eclipse Wilson's salary, Nacua's asking price will tick up again. Oh yeah, totally. Terry McLaurin, there are reports right now that he's a little bit disgruntled with his situation in Washington, so he could be a name to look out for on trade blocks, which could very much impact his fantasy value. We'll see what that ends up being, but he had a great season last year with Jaden Daniels. He should have gotten a new contract. They are stuck paying most of that Debo salary right now. We'll see how that works out for them, but yeah, definitely these two guys, Terry McLaurin, more so Drake London. I kind of want, because again, the Drake London, a younger player, similar age to Puka. We'll see what he gets. Terry McLaurin is going for that second extension, so I don't know if it's going to be as much as he's looking for, which will be interesting to see. But now we need to get into the overall ranks of these contracts, and this is brought to us by Sporadic, and this is based on AAV, average annual value of each contract for these wide receivers as we get that up and going for you here. And obviously we talked about 1 and 2, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, very, very well deserved and obviously. And then you got CeeDee Lamb there at 3, easily the top 3 wide receivers in the NFL. Easy, easy, easy. You don't have to worry about anything there. And so that's definitely something to look at here. As we got the listings right here, as I'm going to read off of this real quick. DK Metcalf at 4, Garrett Wilson at 5, AJ Brown there at 6, 32 mil. Pretty comparable, in my opinion, to Puka Nacua. That's you can pick who you want there. Same thing with Amon-Ra at 30 million. Kind of, again, comparable to Puka. Those 3 are kind of my 3 after Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb. You got Brandon Ayuk at 8, tied with Tyreek Hill at 30 million as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown has a couple extra thousand on there. That's why he's not tied. Yeah, Ayuk and Hill contracts. Hill, I do think can bounce back. Ayuk, I don't know. Yeah, T. Higgins at 28 mil is a lot. Same thing with Waddle. You got DJ Moore, Devontae Smith. Nico Collins' deal at 24 million looks better and better by the day. Shout out to the Texans for getting that deal done. You got Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin at 17, right ahead of Devontae, who's tied with Chris Godwin. Again, you can kind of see the range that we are looking at here for Puka. I think he'll probably be right around that DK range. Maybe he'll ask for exactly what DK got in that 33 million. type of range just to beat out Garrett Wilson by a little bit. And comment down below what you would do if you are the Rams. I would give Puka Nacua right there, that 4-year deal for $33 million average per year. And that is going to equate to a whole lot of money. And that's going to be $132 million. Literally not much more than what Garrett Wilson got. And make 100 of that guaranteed so we can have some nice guarantees in there. Because no wide receiver got a fully guaranteed deal. Jamar Chase has $112 million of his deal guaranteed according to that website. That was actually Over the Cap who brought us those details. So that's what I would do for Puka. Comment that down below right now. A guy who averages 13.5 yards per route for his career. That's crazy. 12.5 last year, 14.2 as a rookie, which is crazy. Obviously led the league in receiving yards per game last year, as we've talked about, set up for a dominant season. But now we have to get into our second story of today's video, and that is Matthew Stafford, an NFL analyst predicting that he is going to go back to being a similar version to what he was in 2021 for this Rams team. And this is from Ramblin' Fan, and we're going to get into that story right now. How well will the Los Angeles Rams veteran quarterback Matthew Stafford perform in 2025? Without the influence of any home team bias, does he hold at least one more magical season in him? Well, NFL Spin Zone believes he does, as the author, Lou Scottaglia, believes him to be among the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL for the 2025 NFL season. Stafford gets an impressive ranking of 8th overall among all NFL quarterbacks, which I even admit is a bit generous with his 2024 NFL performance. I disagree. I have Matthew Stafford in that 6, 7, 8 range as well. I personally have him at 7 if we were going to be doing quarterback rankings, just because we know what he can be in the playoffs when everyone's healthy, when everyone's around him. Even when everyone's not healthy, he is still an effective quarterback leading the team to win. Sure, he's not going to be passing for 400 yards a game, but doesn't have to. He's got a solid running back now as well in Kyren Williams. We just covered how the pessimistic perspective of the Atlanta Falcons quarterback Michael Penix Jr. as jarring bullishness to the outlook for the LA Rams arsenal of draft picks for the 2026 NFL Draft. Despite the belief that wins and losses are not a statistic that should measure the quality of a quarterback, invariably, the team goes only as far as an offensive pilot can take them. As long as the NFL continues to cite quarterbacks as the primary recipients for annual Offensive Player of the Year awards and rookie awards, that will never change. Yeah, I do agree. I think that's definitely important to look at here for the Rams. Again, the pessimist perspective of Michael Penix is not something that we're going to talk about in this video. That has nothing to do with the Rams. But yeah, wins, in my opinion, they help a quarterback look better because a quarterback's a key part of winning. But like, for example, I'm sorry, Falcons fans, I have to go 28-3. That was not a Matt Ryan loss. That was Matt Ryan was actually great in that game. That was a team loss. Like, losses like that are team losses. But you could put a close game where the quarterback doesn't play well enough at the end. Potentially more on the quarterback. We just have to see exactly what that does. And now we actually have a quote to go over from Lou himself about this. Matthew Stafford is still probably underrated and had yet another efficient season for the Los Angeles Rams in the 2024 NFL season. LA finished 10-7 on the year and made the playoffs. When you look at this roster and what they added this offseason, it's hard to believe this team does not become a Super Bowl contender in 2025. Stafford is a driving reason for that as well. He's got a wealth of experience and is just a flat-out money player when his team needs him to be. The future Hall of Famer, hear that, future Hall of Famer Bill Barnwell, is 7th in our power rankings as we can get closer to training camp in the 2025 NFL season. NFL Spin Zone writer Lou Scottaglia said this quote. Yeah, I fully agree. I think he's really an underrated player throughout the NFL. Not as much anymore, especially in Detroit he was underrated because those teams around him outside of Megatron were really not great. Kenny Golladay had some nice moments there, I guess. But besides that, there really wasn't much to deal with. There you had older Adrian Peterson there with him too for a little bit, but not really anything to write home about. And now that he's been in a positive situation with the Rams, he's been able to really show his value as a player. That's rather a complimentary bit of praise for a quarterback who has struggled to reclaim his Super Bowl form, and yet it feels grounded, as though Lou Scottaglia is onto something here. With the Rams clearly investing money, time, attention, and effort into the offensive line, and a bevy of new offensive capabilities with new offensive weapons, doesn't it feel as though the Rams' entire football team is setting up Stafford for one final flash of NFL brilliance in 2025? Apologies for the typo on the screen there. That is not on me. That is from Ramblin' Fan. But yeah, I do agree. I think they're really setting him up to have a big season this year, and I think he can continue to be productive after this year, but I do think this year is the year, if he's going to go back to being a 2021 version of himself, that it can happen with all the new offensive weapons. While the Rams team may have some untested areas, the offense is now more focused on protecting the quarterback as well as giving him an entire offensive arsenal that should be enough to snap the team out of the recent malaise that has prevented this team from scoring points. Since topping the NFL with an average of 32 points per game in 2018, the Rams' offense has been oscillating between an improved offense and a bottom third defense, and we have some stats to back that up for you right now. If the pattern continues, the Rams should be due for a top 10 offense this year. 2017, they were first with 29.9. 2018, second with 32.9. Don't know how that was second. 24.6 in 2019, 11th. 23.3, 23rd in 2020, 8th in 2021, 27.1. I don't know how that's 8th in a year. That is crazy. 2022, 18.1, 27th. 2023, 23.8, 8th, with a lot of injuries that year as well. And then 2024, again, some more injuries, 21.9, 20th, had some red zone issues as well. Yeah, I do see this team being a top 10 offense in terms of points per game, probably more that 7-8 range. I don't see them being number one because I don't think they will need to be to win games. I do see the Bengals being number one, more out of necessity there. But yeah, I think the Rams are easily going to go back to being a top 10 offense. Comment down below whether you agree with that or not, because we got to get to the next part of this story for you. Can Matthew Stafford lead the Rams offense back to relevance? He most certainly can. As long as he gets adequate protection and players remain relatively healthy, this offense is set up to sizzle in 2025. The team welcomes back wide receiver Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, and tight end Tyler Higbee to ensure that Stafford has familiar targets to throw to this offseason. Yes, definitely I agree. But the instant chemistry between elite wide receiver Davante Adams and Matthew Stafford is already off the charts, and in the history of Stafford pushing wide receivers Calvin Johnson, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua to NFL record-setting seasons in the past, can we ignore the chance that wide receiver Davante Adams has a chance to be the next record-setting receiver in Stafford's collection? I'm going to disagree with them on that there. I don't think Davante Adams is going to set a record. Maybe for a number 2 receiver, he'll set a record, but I don't think he's going to set any NFL records in general. Some notes on Stafford: 6'3", 214. Last year, 65% completion, 65.8, 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 3,762 yards. I do believe his passing is going to go up. And my predictions for his stats, I believe he gets 4,100 yards this year. I think he gets 4,000, 38 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Make sure to comment down below what you think Stafford's stats will be at the end of this season. And one more note to end on. According to Rams Wire, I did see that Cooper Kupp is actually back in LA right now, training with Cooper Kupp, with himself obviously, as well as Puka Nacua and Tyler Higbee. So like this video right now for Cooper Kupp still being down in LA right before training camp. We love to see him still being a good mentor to Puka. And that is all for today's video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell so you do not miss any daily new Rams Digest videos, as we are on the road to 4,000 subscribers by the time training camp starts July 24th. Like the video for Puka Nacua, still training with Cooper Kupp, and as well like this video for being less than 10 days away from training camp, almost there. Comment down below your thoughts on Puka Nacua's contract, what you would give him. I said 4 years, 132 mil, 33 million per year average just to beat out Garrett Wilson. And what are your Stafford stat predictions? Comment that down below as well. I've been your host, Josh of Finehirsh. Thank you very much for watching another episode of Rams Digest. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you soon for another one, and have a great rest of your day.